Sinistar, whenever you're ready.
All right. Gentlemen, I've been listening to a lot of Prince lately, and tonight I'm going to party like it's 1989. Tonight on? Today on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Press B to Cancel, your favorite podcast while you're doing the dishes. Other chores, we're not sure, but definitely while you're doing the dishes. I'm not alone. As always, I'm joined by at least a couple of my favorite people. Wolf, how are you today?
I am dating myself for this, but I'm still just coming off of being sick. So I got those sweet dulcet tones.
Oh yes. You could live fast, eat ass right now. There's an inside joke for you.
Someone told me they expected me to bust into doing like the smooth talk radio voice.
Oh, there you
the
go.
Other day.
There you go. And Jake, how are you today?
Doing great. And on that radio, the song you'll play is Bat Dance, everybody's favorite Prince song from '89.
Dude, my buddy
Fantastic.
loves that song.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's on his playlist.
I mean,
Bat Dance. Okay.
what's not to like about Prince? My claim to fame, I got to see him live before he passed away. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's cool.
He was another level, man.
Oh yeah. And I'm Sinistar. I'm doing great today. But as you could probably gather from the intro, we're talking about 1989 and specifically our games of the year. Yes. For 1989. This is a continuing series. I know we've been going forward from 1990, but we're taking a step back and we're going back a year. We basically looked at it and we're like, man, the 80s had some bangers. We got to do some 80s. So, and 89 is no slouch in the banger year for sure.
Mm-mm.
So,
Yeah.
so without
Plus,
further
everything going forward to the '90s is just hot garbage anyway. Let's be real. We don't need to go forward. There's nothing good after '91. It's fine. We're good. Or '92. It's all downhill from there.
When did Sonic and Tails come out?
After '92.
When did Kirby come out?
Let's go backwards. Let's get closer to Circus Charlie and Balloon Fight, my favorite game.
Oh,
Let's
I see
go
how
backwards.
I see how it's going. 1986. We're already calling 86, folks. Anyway,
spoilers.
Let's just go ahead and kick into it. So we're gonna do runner up first. We'll do it round robin. And then we may reverse. We'll call it when we get there. But Wolf, what is your runner up for 1989?
I'm gonna go with Wanderers from East 3.
Now, what's funny is every time I hear somebody say East, I have to put together that it's YS.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When I was a kid, when I first played this game as a kid, me and my friends, we all called it Wise.
Yeah.
Same.
And I've always called it YS.
It wasn't until I saw like an episode of the anime years later that I understood that it was pronounced East. And then from then on, I was like, okay. But this is one of those games. It's like super frustrating to try and look up on websites because the name is always too short.
For sure.
It was an anime? I didn't know it was an anime. I mean, it makes sense.
There was an anime adaptation of it. I don't think it was an anime first.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
I had it at one point. I think I got rid of it because the anime wasn't all that great. But this game is one of my favorite games to this day. I still have the Super Nintendo copy up there somewhere. But obviously the Super Nintendo copy is not what came out in '89. However, it's a fairly accurate port of what was on the Turbo CD or PC, I believe, is what it came out first.
Okay.
But it was originally released in '89. It's pretty much mostly the same game. There might be slight changes here and there, but it's a fun little sort of like, it's an action RPG, but your range on your sword is really weak.
Yeah, the hitbox is like non-existent.
So you're
small.
essentially Dan from the Capcom series.
You got to get in real close to enemies that like, there's not really iframes in this game. So if something's just sitting on you, you're just ticking away health real quick. And so you can get drained real fast. This is like a stupid hard game. And there are ways around that to make it a little easier that I usually do now. Like once I get to area 2, I believe, I have a tendency to like farm owls for a while because they're really good XP. And that lets me get way overpowered to like barrel through the rest of the game, no problem. But all the music in this game absolutely rocks. Like there's not a track in this game that sucks, right?
Yeah.
Some just hit more than others.
I mean, that was kind of the era as well, right? I mean, we didn't call them chip tunes at the time, but like the late 80s were really when they came into kind of their own, right?
Yeah, it's when they really figured out what they could do with these limited electronic audio chips that, man, they really figured out how to blast some good stuff out of those things.
Handful of voices, and were able to, modulate it just so that it sounded like it had more than, a couple handful.
And as I understand it, I don't know if the original release did. I'm pretty sure the Turbo CD version did for Ys 3, had voice acting.
Oh, wow.
I think it did. I think you're right. That was one of the big benefits of the CD system. I know I pick on the SNES Genesis music all the time, and I love Genesis sound, but this is one of the few SNES games where it's just awesome. It's really great. And I know you guys can't see the video, but I clicked to a random spot where combat starts. So for those who are watching the YouTube version of this, you're going to see the main character, Adol, on the screen, standing still, farming bats for the last 45 seconds. Because that's what this game is when you start it out, is you farm
in the forest
or you get
with
nowhere.
The volcano in the background?
I think it's a cave area next to some wood steps. It's just...
Oh, okay. So that's the mine at first. Yeah, you do have to do... Okay, so this game does require you at least do a little grinding in each area to make sure you have survivability.
I mean,
it's the era, so it's a pass on it in my mind.
Okay.
Well, like, and it's not like it takes long to grind in this game. Like, literally, if you want to grind for an hour in that second area that I was talking about with the owls, you will be probably at a level that would take you through the 5th area at that point. So you don't have to grind long to get way overpowered.
I mean, as you said, it was the era. I mean, like the Bard's Tale series, right? Like the manual itself says don't get attached to early characters. Just throw them away and start over. I mean, that's kind of how the era was. It's just until you did a certain amount of grinding, and often it was a substantial amount, you died.
Well,
Wizardry
for this YouTube video, for example, the guy is literally grinding for 15 minutes. So I'm going to skip ahead while you guys keep talking.
But yeah, this is the game that made me fall in love with the Ys franchise. So from that point on, anytime I saw an Ys game that was coming out, I was like, I gotta get it. So I do have Ys, like Ark of Nepishtim for PS2. When that one came out years later, I was like, oh, yes! And I was like, I consumed that game to no end. And then I've got Ys games on the PlayStation, PS4, on the Switch. Like, I love this franchise. And this is the one that did it.
Nice.
And one of the stupid things about this game is it has 15 save slots. But when we were renting the game or got it used without a manual, we didn't know that. And so
how do you switch saves?
You get 3 saves on a screen on the Super Nintendo version.
Okay.
And if you hit right, you get another screen of save and another screen of save.
There's no,
But you don't know that
there's no indicator on the screen that you can
Right.
press.
No.
Okay, yeah.
So when we were kids, you know, it was sometimes we would accidentally flip to a new page and not know it, save, and then we'd go to load up our game later and be like, "Where's the save?" Had no clue.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, if you were smart and you knew this, you could flip to a later page and save your file, and then somebody else could rent it and not save over it. Like,
right. Yeah. Oh, I remember the days of renting games with saves. And hoping and praying that somebody hadn't wiped out your save. Yeah. And then there were those of us that would go wipe out the saves on purpose.
This was a game that every single area felt just absolutely intense because of the music. And
nice.
You know, you'd go on your travels and run into your traveling companion here and there, Dogi, and you'd get to the end, and it did really cool stuff with the background for the time, where it sort of faked a sort of 3D while you were going up a tower and stuff like that. It did some really neat stuff.
Nice.
But like, yeah, this is a game I loved. I don't think it's the best game that year, but it's a game that I think is absolutely amazing. You gotta be a little bit of a masochist to really love the E series, though.
Well, so this was like the first Super Nintendo I owned, or Super Nintendo game I owned, because I got it as a hand-me-down. Yeah, so I played this, and it was this one, and then quickly after Link to the Past. You can guess which one I played more.
Probably Link to the Past.
Yeah, but this is a game where the first dozen times I tried to play it, I got nowhere, and I kept dying because the game is brutally difficult until I caught on that, hey, I can just stand here and farm these bats or owls for like 30 minutes with a turbo controller or a rubber band. and suddenly I can get through the rest of the game. And once I farmed initially, like you're right, you have to farm a little bit, then the game opens up. It really does. It's like the Final Fantasy 14 of 89, where the first
it really is
power opens up. Yeah.
Even the armor and weapon upgrades, like there's so much disparity between the power levels of your equipment that when you get that new piece of equipment, you just feel like you've absolutely just tower over enemies at that point. Like, oh, wow, this changes the game.
see, I kind of love that. Because there's so many games.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of RPGs these days where when you get a new piece of armor, you don't feel the difference. You get a new weapon, you don't see the difference. The numbers don't change that much.
Right.
Because they've gone up by like a smidge instead of, you know, being twice as powerful as the last thing you used.
Right. Yeah, I love that concept of like, okay, I've unlocked a new armor piece or new weapon piece, and now I'm like uber until I until I hit the next tier of enemies that can compete with my uberness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the loop is fun. Like I really did like this game. I don't know if I beat it. I kind of think I might have. How long is this one? I feel like
you'd remember if you beaten it. It was like you fight this big demon that's sort of like potato shaped, and it swings around, and you have to like jump to hit it, and like it's this big purple thing.
Okay, it's been a long time. Like,
the sky is open above you, and just a massive storm is happening around you, and
new emote idea. Potato demon.
Potato demon. Yeah.
Well, its name was Galbalin, but
yeah. Well, that means potato.
I remember this stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you though. This game is great, but I mean, I didn't play the original. I've only played the SNES one. I think I remember when I played this one, I remember I wanted to try the rest of the series, but it wasn't accessible to me at the time. But this is a large franchise. There's what, like 7 or 8 games, I think now?
And most of it is on Steam at this point. I think it's missing like one entry. I think there's one that still hasn't been brought to North America, if I'm not mistaken. But
so I think the first two were top down. This one was side scroller. Do you know if the other ones kept the side scrolling or if they changed perspective?
The fourth one was top down as well. I think that one made its way to Genesis.
Okay.
I think that one was called Mask of the Sun or something. And then 5 was Ark of Nepishtim. Don't recall exactly. I think E7 was the one that was literally just called E7. There was also a remake of East 3 that's 3D-ish. Like it's kind of top-down 3D. That one's called Oath and Felghana. That is also on Steam.
Nice.
But yeah, like they've strayed away from that now. They tend to be more behind behind Adal third person.
Yeah.
And so that's what 8 plays like, which is Lacrimosa of Dana. And then 9 is Monstrum Nox. And in that one, Adal actually like can turn into a monster. He got cursed.
So it's Alter Beast.
Kind of.
I'm gonna say I do like how it's the same guy, Adal, through all of them, right? Because like you look at something like Final Fantasy or Dragon's Quest, which are also long-running franchises, it's always different characters, right? This one, it's the same guy, his companions, and you get that growth of the characters over time. I really do dig. I dig that.
My only issue is the amount of times this guy gets shipwrecked and stranded on a remote island is absurd.
You think he'd learn at some point?
You'd think the law of averages would be on his side to where he'd make it through a safe trip on a boat once in a while, but
well, maybe this is his lot in life.
I think it happened to him for East 1 and 2, which are the same story. They're like back to back. East 5, he was shipwrecked. East 8, he's shipwrecked.
This guy should just stop getting on boats.
Yeah. Some people are just doomed to be on the Titanic. I know. This is a good game. I do like this game.
For sure. Well, any other comments, or should we move to our next runner-up?
I think we can move on.
All right. Well, Jake, do you want to go next, or do you want me to go next?
No, I can go.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick, let me just pull it up here. I'm going to pick Phantasy Star II. I was Kim and Han, which one will be my runner-up, which one will be my game of the year, but I'm going to go in this order. Phantasy Star II is it's considered one of the best JRPGs of the generation, on the Genesis especially, because there's so few on the Genesis. I'm a huge fan, much like Chard, of Phantasy Star IV. I love that game. But there's a lot of references in that game to the earlier games in the franchise, 1 and 2. So I eventually played this, when I first started streaming, I guess in 2018, this is one of the first games I played through. And let me start off by saying, I fucking hate this game. I'm going to say that now. I can't stand it. Okay? Let me tell you why. There's random battles every step of the way. There's so many random combat encounters. It's frustrating. In much the same way that I can't stand Phantasy Star 4 a lot of the time nowadays, trying to go back and play this game in 2024 is just an exercise in frustration, as there's so much combat in this game. So much.
Sounds like
not exclusive to Phantasy Star 2. That's all 4 of them, I believe, are a little overtuned on how often you enter combat.
Sounds like a good option for a ROM hack here.
Actually, it wouldn't surprise me if there is one. I also want to say this was one where they tweaked the combat or the stats between the Japanese and American release. I think that was the case for this one. It's brutal with how many encounters you have. But if you can put that aside, and you should, this is a really interesting and a unique fantasy universe. So much like the 4th game, this takes place in the Algol star system, which is a series of 3 different planets, or 4 planets, I think, in this one. And it's very unique in that it's definitely a blend of fantasy with the science fiction. It's clearly a fantasy. You're swinging swords, casting magic spells. There's all kinds of creatures you're fighting. But then you also have characters who have guns, and there's spaceships, and there's going between planets, and there's aliens. It's very interesting, and there was very few other games, especially RPGs, that were doing that at the time. And that's why I always dug this franchise. The plot is interesting. You're basically a government agent, and you're on a planet that's been basically terraformed to be a beautiful green paradise known as Mota. And there's this computer known as Mother Brain that basically oversees the terraforming of this planet to make sure that, nobody has to work too hard. Their lives are paradise. They can sit back and let the computers do everything for them. but then certain things start to break down, and you have to go investigate, the climate control system, and it kind of leads into a story of what actually is Mother Brain, who created it, and what's going on with it, and the nefarious evil behind it. It's a really cool story. It's a really great story. It's just a bit of a grind to get through it, but it's amazing because the planet Mota, it's a green-blue paradise, but in Phantasy Star 4, I'm not gonna say wasteland, but it's definitely got a desert, Tatooine vibe to it, because by the end of this game, you basically defeat Mother Brain, and the end result of this game, it's not a happy ending. I'm gonna spoil it because if you haven't played Phantasy Star 2, you're probably never going to. So I'll spoil it briefly. You defeat Mother Brain, and you realize it was basically corrupted by this thing known as Dark Force, which is this recurring evil in the franchise. Every 1,000 years, Dark Force comes in and screws things up. This is no different. But what's interesting about this one is that people from Earth, they lost Earth for some reason. They don't go into it, but I'm assuming it was Dark Force. And as they're exploring the universe for a suitable home, they find the Algo star system. But they see that there's already inhabitants on the planets. So they construct Mother Brain to basically make it so that the local population over generations becomes weaker because they don't have to do anything. They don't have to work anymore. They don't have to survive. And as they become weaker and weaker, they can exert their will over the people and take over the planets. And by killing Mother Brain, you're basically dooming the population of Algo to basically their demise because they won't be able to survive on hospital planets that aren't terraformed anymore. And that's the ending of the game. You defeat Mother Brain, you enter a room full of hundreds of humans, and they're like, this is our plan all along. You've just doomed the entire solar system. and then it ends. And then it ends. Like, I mean, assume that you win in that room, and then because then by the fourth game, there's still people. But when I was doing research on this game, apparently 90% of the people of Algo die by the time you get to Phantasy Star 4. It's pretty grim. It's pretty bleak. And it's because of your results of this. Yeah.
Phantasy Star 3 was not nearly as futuristic as 2. So that would explain why. I never understood that.
So the thing with 3 was, so 1 and 2 are kind of tied together in Algo. And then the third game is actually, the idea with that was, I think it was a result of probably 2, where colony ships were sent out to the cosmos to try and find new homes, because of the destruction of a planet that happens in 2, which if you played 4, which everybody should play 4, there's no Palma in that one. It's basically a destroyed planet, and it gets destroyed as part of the story in this game. It's awesome. But 3 is kind of a side story where you're on a colony ship that goes to the cosmos, and it is not related to the Algo star system. 3 was interesting, had some interesting ideas, but I much prefer 4, and 1 and 2 tie into 4. 3 is kind of its own thing. So it's a trippy story. It's early Genesis, though, and it's definitely an early RPG. It's not like the first game. The first game on Master System is pretty rough to play. It's first-person view combat. You don't see any character animations. It's very bland. This one ups it up a notch. You see your characters. There's multiple party members. There's a lot more in this game. But I think it's Game of the Year run-up for me for 89 because of what it leads to in 4. And the story implications of what happens in 2 are huge for 4, and it's great to play this and reflect back on what happens in 4, I think. Did you guys play this one at all or no?
I have spun up at least a Phantasy Star, but I couldn't tell you which one.
Okay.
So
do you remember what your main character looked like at all?
No, I remember. I think I bounced off of it because of the amount of combat. I was like, I'm tired of this. Like,
there's a lot.
This is worse than Final Fantasy 1. So
I can't remember if I beat Phantasy Star 1 or not. If I did, it was on the GBA Phantasy Star collection. And that was so long ago, I don't remember if I finished it, but I did make it through most of it at least. Phantasy Star 2, I think I only played a few hours of, and Phantasy Star 3 I've also played about. I played probably about 8 to 10 hours of both of those.
Okay. Yeah, this is I'm trying to remember when I first streamed it, how long it took me. It was not a 90-hour game. Like 4 is quite a lengthy game, but it's still a slog in spots. I remember there was one particular dungeon I got lost in, and it's because you had to exit and go around the map to find the other part of the dungeon. And I remember that pissing me the right the hell off because I had to use a map for it. Because I was trying to do these games blind at the time as best as possible. And I hated that I had to look up a guide of where to go. The dungeons are also kind of samey, right? But it's all like, it's a neat aesthetic with the cyber, pipes and lights everywhere, much like 4. It's just, it's got a unique style to it and I appreciate it. I like 4 more, but you can't have Phantasy Star 4 without 2. Like, you just can't. All the ideas that I love in 4 started in this game. So I think it's definitely a game of the year for me for that. But
I mean, I'm going to have a little bit of a similar statement about my runner-up. So,
fair enough.
Yeah. I think, we'll get there.
I do love that Phantasy Star II was just so futuristic. And I know 1 really tried to be, but it's kind of hard. It was hard to convey that on the Master System.
Yeah.
Whereas the Genesis did it a lot better. Especially like, you're used to these RPGs where there's just a lot of browns and, just the wilds and things don't look very vibrant. And then Phantasy Star 2 comes along and it's like, we're going to use neon green to show you how healthy the grass and trees are. And everything so looks perfectly manicured and it doesn't feel right as RPGs go. But when you consider that the Earth, that the planet is just kind of taken care of by a computer system, it makes sense that everything just looks so neat and tidy. And it,
You've brought up a point. I have felt this for a long time that like the asset designers for video games, especially RPGs, pick like a palette of like similar colors, brown or gray or something, and then they just go with it. They just roll it to death. The first time I played Kingdoms of Amalur, I was like, this is a fucking colorful game.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And what's neat of this one too is you do go to different planets, and every different planet is quite different. You have the ice planet, and you have all that kind of thing. So there's some interesting environments there. I really dig the aesthetic. I mean the character designs. This is one of the origins of Cat Girl. One of your party members, Nee, is basically a cat girl, pointy ears. She wears a leather swimsuit for some reason. It's 89. I'm not going to question it, but that's what they do. But I mean, if you've played 4 and you see the similar character Rika, who's the same species, you're kind of wondering, well, what's up with that cat? What's up with the elf in the claws and the thong? It kind of ties back to this game, I think. So there's some interesting design choices of the characters, but I appreciate this game. I wish the combat was not as frequent. That's probably ROM hack. You're right, Sinistar. There's also a PS2 remake of this, Phantasy Star II Generations, I believe it is. I might give that a go because that's got to be more balanced with the combat, and it's basically this game with updated graphics. I'm kind of curious to check that one out.
Nice.
Yeah, that was part of the Sega Ages collection, so you'd probably have to find an English translation of it.
There's a ROM hack. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how wonderful that stuff is.
I do remember when the Sega Ages games were coming out for the PS2, I was so sad that we got almost none of them. We got just like a handful on a collection, which I have.
We didn't get all of them? I thought we got most of them, no?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
There were so many Sega Ages releases that came out for like $15-20 a pop in Japan that we didn't get here.
Okay, because my other pick, I'll get to it later, is also a Sega Ages release. So that's kind of neat. I wonder if we got that one now.
All right.
All right.
Nice. Awesome. Any other thoughts on that one, or
no? That's another franchise that I absolutely love the crap out of, and that one's kind of fun because it's always like the same villain in every single game. It's always
Dark Force.
Sometimes it has different names because it gets translated differently by the entry, but it's all just the same Dark Force, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's Dark Falls. I think in Phantasy Star 3 it had a name that was I think it was Dark Phallus.
I think
that's
you're right.
how it got translated in that one.
Well, fantastic.
Totally inconsistent. Yeah.
But beat up. It was just a mistranslation of Dark Force from Japanese to English.
Nice. Awesome. Well, are we ready for my runner-up?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so my runner-up, kind of to Jake's point. Now, I played the hell out of this game. I had a blast with it, but it really kind of led to a much grander scope of games, right? So really, this was the precursor. This started it, but the ones that followed really iterated and became better. So my runner-up is SimCity, the original start of the franchise, and if I remember correctly, the start of the Sims games altogether. I don't think there was, yeah. And then we got some real weird bangers. We got some real weird games. Anyway, Sim Ant, yeah, Sim Copter,
Sim Ant, Sim Earth, Sim Copter,
yeah.
Oh, what was that? There was the one where you could drive the car around your Sim City. Sim Drive.
Yeah, it's like Sim Drive. I know the one. Yeah. I think it's like Sim Drive or something like that. Sim Cruising. I don't know. Anyway, but now this game isn't a slouch. Like this game, it had, I mean, it was a simplified version of what you get today, where basically everything was broken into little, even sized squares, an industrial spot or a commercial spot or a residential spot, power plant, etc. But I mean, this really started the franchise of, trying to make the people that live in your streets of SimCity, that's what it is. The people that try to live in your, city happy. And, but I mean, you're the mayor. Are you the mayor? Or yeah, you're the mayor.
You're the mayor.
And you basically are given a budget, and you have to succeed or fail based on the budget. And you have to succeed or fail based on, things like pollution, population, natural and unnatural, consequences, etc. So, but like Jake said with Phantasy Star II, I mean, I love this game. I don't think that I'm not going to be like, I hate this game because of blah, but it definitely is not my favorite in the SimCity series for sure. But I mean, you have to stand on the shoulder of giants, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
building blocks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for the record, it's a tie between SimCity 2000 and 3000 for me. So, for which one's my favorite?
Yeah, those are both very good. But I do remember playing some SimCity again. Like,
oh yeah,
for me, this era it was a lot of Super Nintendo and Genesis. So I played SimCity on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I was not good at that game. I didn't really gain a good understanding of how SimCity worked until SimCity 2000 later.
Okay.
But yeah, I do love the SimCity franchise as a whole, but I don't think I've ever gone back to try SimCity again since I sucked at it.
Yeah.
It still holds up. I played it recently. I do love this one. You know what gets it for me is when I realized there's no point in building roads. And this is from the 90s. Again, I played the SNES one, but maybe it's different than the PC one. But yeah, there's no point in building roads. They're never going to be happy. Traffic will always be a problem. You build a city, traffic will be a nightmare. So you build rail around all your goddamn blocks. Yep. And how it's best to do the 9 block and keep the hole in the middle of the donut and put a park. Once I realized that technique as a kid, I got really good at this game as a kid. I remember borrowing off a friend and not wanting to give it back. And then I think I ended up buying it for myself when I could get it on cheap. But I love this game.
I didn't know about that strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go back and play it, block of 9, put a park in the center.
Yeah. And just do railways everywhere.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
No, for me, I obviously played this on PC. I was a PC gamer, I still am, but I was a PC gamer. And what's really entertaining is when I first played this, I was playing it on a Hercules monochrome graphics card. So it was this like amber color, and like, so you had to it was a lot of dithering, whatever it is, the dots, right?
Yeah.
So it was one of the games that supported the Hercules graphics, which was nice. But yeah, I mean, what else is there to really say? I kind of, my two picks are well known, and we don't have to really, everybody's going to be like, yes, I know that game. Thank you.
I can't imagine this being in black and white, because it just, for me, the yellow for industrial, the blue commercial, and red residential, that color scheme, I think they kept it up all the way to the last entry in SimCity from a number of years ago, and just, I don't know, I can't imagine this in black and white.
I think the bars are still the colors, the ones where it shows you like if you have an overage or an underage.
Okay.
And then I think when you lay out the grid, I think that they're still the same colors, if I remember right.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking at a monochrome version of SimCity. I can't find it in amber, but there's lots of white and black, and I found one in green and black. And so it'll say on the block the letter C, the letter R, or the letter I. In the middle of somewhere, so that you could tell what it is.
That's wild.
Yeah, I think it might have been the monitor that I had. I think Hercules is technically black and white, but I think I had an amber colored monitor. So
did the PC version have the disasters like the SNES one, like the fires and all that stuff?
Flooding? Oh yeah, oh for sure.
Okay,
for sure. Yeah.
I remember being real pissed off when I had I was getting close to is it Metropolis State? When you get your city so big, you filled up everything on the map, and you're just trying to grow, and then the game starts throwing disasters at you more often, and that just pissed me the hell off. Because one fire can wreck this whole section of your city, and starting from scratch was really, really painful, especially when you're trying to get that next tier.
And that is the one claim that you need roads for, which is for fire department and police department and hospital and stuff like that.
Interesting.
I don't think that those use rail, if I remember right. It's been a long time. I don't know that the fire department really is like waiting for the train with their,
Maybe that's why I struggled in this game as a kid. Okay. Solve traffic.
You thought you found the exploit, and instead you screwed yourself.
There's no smoking in my city. It's banned.
That's right.
The police and firemen don't want to hop the train. Okay.
No hot food. You only eat, unless it's microwave. You can microwave things. That's all you get.
I'll tell you when I last played this game. I'll tell you, I played this last game because Paradox released, was it City Line 2 or whatever? And I'm like, hell yeah, I like the first City Skyline or whatever hell it is. And, that's because that's basically took over from SimCity after EA botched it so badly. Sure. So Paradox is the only one making these games, and I love that one. So when the sequel got announced, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll pick it up. And then I looked at the reviews, and the reviews are god-awful for that game.
Yeah.
So I was in the mood for a city builder, and I never played SimCity 2000 or 3000. It was literally just the original and that reboot that EA screwed up a couple of years back. So I just went back and played the SNES version of this, and I do like it.
SimCity 2000 and 3000 are both, I mean, they are, if you want to spend the time, now it is vastly more complicated.
Yes.
You have terraforming, you have, I mean, it's vastly more complicated, but
2000 and 3000 really aren't all that different.
No, I think 3000 actually, even reduced a few of the I think it actually dropped a few of the things. I don't know that you have subways in 3000. I mean, basically, part of the reason I like it is it's kind of, to me, like a SimCity 2000 Lite. So it depends on how much complication I want.
Yeah.
So
SimCity 4 wasn't bad either. I have played that one. I have that one for the PC somewhere on CD-ROM.
It got the bad rap for the online requirement.
That was after 4.
Or that was
no. SimCity 4 was like early 2000s. So it didn't have the online requirement stuff. It was just it stopped being two-dimensional. I think that one actually made things 3D.
Which is what they wanted to do with 3000.
3D.
Yeah. And they weren't able to succeed with the technology of the day with 3000. So
I remember SimCity 4 barely running on my machine because that was a pretty demanding game. And never mind the computations for the simulation, but just the graphics was also bringing it to its knees. I did like that one, actually. I did play that one.
Well,
I forgot about it, actually.
In that theme, City Skylines 2 did it recently. They made it so that it doesn't really play on modern hardware either.
Carrying on that tradition. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that self-titled one that came out after SimCity 4 with the online stuff.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It just, a lot of it didn't work. I mean, some interesting ideas. I like the idea of having different sub-cities. Like, I could make Trashville, and I did. And I would ship all my garbage to Trashville. Like, that kind of stuff was kind of interesting. So, like, here's the garbage island. I'm just going to send my trash there. When I played the old SNES one, I used to kind of do that. Put all my pollution in the one corner of the map and keep all the smog there and have this utopia down the corner, preferably on an island or over a river. It's the stupid head games you have as a kid. The head canon when you're playing these games, like you build this lore for your stupid city and I get right into it. So yeah, I spent a lot in this game. I do quite like it.
Note to self, don't ever let Jake go into politics. Got it.
Yeah, I think I used to do that too, but I think I did it when I was playing the one that let you put tunnels. I don't remember if that was 2000 or 3000.
I think 2000 is the one that let you do the underground
tunnels through a mountain and stuff. So I would do Trash Valley. So I'd build mountains in a circle, like a big donut, and then put all my waste dumps in the middle of that, and you'd have to drive through a tunnel to get to it.
If you can't see it, it's not there.
That's right.
You want to see it. It's a tourist attraction. Yeah, it's a smart
That's
move.
right. Let's go. I love the trash fires. I love the trash fires. Awesome. So yeah, the start of a franchise. I mean, I think it's going to be a rare individual that listens to our podcast that's not going to know the SimCity franchise.
Yeah. So. And I mean, like we said, they have had missteps in the franchise. Obviously, SimCity 2013 was god awful because it was always online connection. There was another one that was really bad, SimCity Societies. Like there was literally no way to fail at that game.
Right.
It was so dumb. I bought it because I was so excited about a new SimCity. And then I went and played it. And I could literally just like not do anything. And my city would still make money and grow and succeed. And I was like, what the hell? This is not fun. And I stopped playing it once I realized that.
You're like, I'm the best mayor ever.
More taxes. Less taxes.
I couldn't even try to tank the city. Like it would just succeed. I don't understand.
Yeah. Easy mode.
Basically. So if you've ever wanted to feel really good at a SimCity game, try SimCity Societies.
Yeah. Gamers are happier when they can't lose. That's just how it works.
Right. Yeah. I know my kids when they were younger were that way. They'd want to turn on all the cheats. So okay, well, do we want to go around again or do we want to go in reverse order?
I'll go around. I'll go Ken.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. So my next game is another 3. This one is Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap for the Master System. Now, I mean, those of you who have been listening to the podcast for a while, you're very aware of how much I love me a Metroidvania game. And oh boy, is this a damn good representation of a Metroidvania game, especially in 1989. Holy crap.
The Master System.
Yeah. Just this is a game that was, and I'm gonna embarrass myself here a little. I didn't get to play this until it came out on the Switch with the remaster.
Okay.
And I played through more than half the game with the Master System graphics. Just because I love how they looked like so dated and retro and
sure.
I mean the game mechanically it is almost exactly the same as the Master System game. There's very few things they changed. Like instead of, I think it had a password system originally.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, instead of a save system.
They put a save system in.
Okay.
But other than stuff like that, the game is functionally exactly the same. And man, Dragon's Trap is so cool an experience. Like you get to transform into different creatures to get into new areas, different areas, and you can actually sequence break this game, which is another one of those things that people love with a good Metroidvania is sequence breaking. And I did it by accident. I accidentally went the wrong way.
Okay.
I unlocked an animal form and I should have unlocked another animal form prior to that. I went into the wrong area and sort of brute forced my way through it, I guess. and all of a sudden I've got 2 animal forms that I didn't have. Because it assumes that if you have this one, you had that one. And
Okay.
so it just rolled both of them into me. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I missed something.
It just flipped the bit for one, which flipped the bit for the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. That's cool.
But there's so much stuff hidden in this game, things to find. The bosses were pretty fun. And honestly, just fighting these big dragons is kind of scary.
I was watching a little bit of the gameplay just now, and like I noticed, like I kind of loved it. There was a point where like the character like turned, kind of like aimed down and like hit blocks like facing down, and then they ended up hitting the ceiling and were walking across the ceiling, and like it looks intense. So
yeah,
Yeah,
this is a game I
it's
played this when I did when I started streaming. This is the other game for the Master System I played, and this is one of the reasons why I think the Master System is a really underrated system. People kind of point at it being the lesser NES, but NES has nothing like Dragon's Trap. Like the graphics in this game are really solid. Like the
Oh,
sprites
yeah,
are
this
very
is
large, detailed, colorful.
it's
The only
gorgeous.
I think negative I have is when you're fighting the bosses, because the boss sprites are so large and more colors, they have to get rid of the background, so they're always taking place in black rooms. But the dungeons themselves and the map look great. It's a very colorful game, and I love the palette for this game. It's a
I'm
really pretty
if
game.
if I'm not mistaken, the Master System was more technically capable than the NES. It had a more limited palette, but the colors were also more varied than the NES palette. Because there's so much blue on the NES palette, it's ridiculous.
Mhm.
That's why Mega
Yeah.
Man is blue. Because there were so many colors of blue, they were like, well, let's just make him blue.
It's just easier
Gotcha.
that way.
So I just watched a boss fight with what looks like a pirate dragon. That's what I'm going to call him. And I kind of love that. Like every time you hit him, his eyes go like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This
Yeah,
is a gorgeous game.
It really is. There's like the dragons are funny too. Like they
Mhm.
were really just they went ham with the types of dragons.
Oh, I
The
see a
first one you
samurai dragon now.
experience, which is also the last dragon, is a robot dragon.
Okay.
Yes.
But there's also, like you said, the pirate dragon, the samurai dragon. There's a mummy
Uh-huh.
dragon.
Nice.
So they weren't just like, yeah, it's a green dragon, a red dragon, a blue dragon. No, they were like, let's be silly with the dragons.
Oh, the mummy dragon looks so good.
It does. Like these.
Yeah.
It's a very pretty Master System game.
Yeah.
They did a good job with the sprite work in this game.
For sure.
Yeah, so for
Yeah,
those
this looks
watching the
great.
video, it starts with you being super powerful. You have all the hearts, all the best equipment, and then you're basically going to fight against the Mecha Dragon. And then something happens, you get cursed, right? Dragon's Trap, and then you lose everything. So it's definitely got that Metroid feel where you start off powerful and they take it all away, and you have to kind of build your
Yeah.
hero back up, right? It's really rad.
I
I'm with you on the
honestly
secrets too.
can't
Go ahead.
think of a Metroidvania game that did that before this. I don't know if there's a
Yeah.
case for one, but
I-
yeah, the starting super powerful and making you weak really quickly.
Mm.
Like I don't know if I've seen that in an earlier game than this that is also a Metroidvania.
Mm.
Yeah, I only know it from Metroid, but that was much later than this one. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean the animal forms are really cool. What was it? So the mouse can go on the ceilings, right? I think.
Yeah,
And it's one
the
block
mouse can
tall.
walk on walls and ceilings.
Okay.
For certain types of blocks, obviously. I think the lion was just he hit really hard. The sea monster could, I believe, breathe underwater, and
so.
it also was able to spit fireballs. And what was the other? Was there a pig, or is that just the salesman?
That's the sales guy, I think. Yeah, I think there was one more form. There's the dragon form, of course, where shoots fire and tail attack, and you're stuck with that form for quite a bit. I think there's one more. So what I confuse this game with a lot of, if anybody who
the
does like
bird.
this, the bird, okay, right? Because there's areas where you fly up to get to. There's secrets up in the sky, too.
Right.
Anybody who likes this game who doesn't realize it's probably an influence for the Shantae series. The first couple Shantae games
Okay.
remind me a hell of a lot of Dragon's Trap in terms of the different animal forms, tons of secrets, the way you go across the world. It's very similar vibe to Dragon's Trap. You'd mentioned the Switch re-release. That is a very solid way to play this game. I think it's widescreen
Yeah, it's
support.
on Steam also.
Yeah, so that's a solid way to play it. There's widescreen support. I love how you can switch between the graphics, the new and the old, at a whim. The soundtracks as well. The soundtrack is good either way. And then the passwords in the original also do work in the modern version. I mean, I think there's also saving, but I like how it's a true to the original port of Dragon's Trap. It's a really well done port. It's one of like the first ports or like redos of a retro game that I felt like did it justice, right? Did everything you'd want in a remake of a game. I really do like it.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I think if I go and play this, I think I'm going to play it in Master System mode. Like, I love the graphics. I think they're just fantastic. So.
Oh yeah, like for me, it was constantly, what does this area look like in Master System, and what does it look like now? And so I loved comparing that. But even the Master System version of the graphics was never disappointing for me. And you know, I've always been a huge fan of the Master System. Like, I didn't have one as a kid. My cousins had them. And so I would love to play the Master System at their house. You know, Choplifter, Zillion, Black Belt, Lord of the Sword, all these stupid games that
Very nice.
But man, Dragon's Trap, I never got to play as a kid. I didn't know the game existed until years after I got a Master System, and still didn't even get to play it until much later. But
so in the franchise, I mean, did you ever play 1 and 2?
Yes. Wonder Boy. I did play Wonder Boy, which is, you know, some of you may have played it as Adventure Island.
Okay. Okay.
A bit different. Yes.
That game.
Yeah. Wonder Boy and Adventure Island sort of like are two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
But then as you get through the franchises, they split up heavily. So Adventure Island 2 and on is a very different game from Wonder Boy 2 and on. So
okay. Troll Island.
What was Wonder Boy and Monsterland was the one I think I played on the Master System. I think that was before this one. I think was that.
Yeah,
2?
that was Wonder Boy 2,
and it was an action game. It wasn't a Metroidvania, right?
Right. It was an action platformer. It also felt like a logical next step from Wonder Boy 1. And you know, you'd have the giant monster, like you'd get to a boss and it would change heads to like have different phases for its boss fight.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Wolf, have you played Shantae?
I have. I am not a fan.
This feels just like Shantae, but okay. Yeah, this is a good pick.
I disagree.
I love this game. Oh, come on, man. Even the spells, like the limited spells you have in this game remind me a lot of what's in Shantae, the spawning of enemies.
I disagree.
Sounds like an idea.
I feel like this is so much better than Shantae.
Sounds like an episode idea. Wonder Boy versus Shantae.
I did pick up Half Genie Hero recently, so I might have to give that one a go.
So Half Genie Hero is great.
I had to get it because you can. Yeah, I had to get it because you can transform into Sophia from Blaster Master. And, I mean,
yes, the DLC forms. Learning what the Half Genie Hero is, it's more of an action game. When we get to our 88
episode.
Yeah. We have to do an episode on Shantae. I just picked them up on sale on Steam, so I'm totally down to talk about that franchise. Anyway, no more tangents. I'll stop.
All right. Well, anything else, or should we have Jake do his number 1 for 89? All right, Jake, how about your number 1 for 89?
Okay, so for this one, this is a game where I did not own it as a kid originally. I first came across it by visiting a friend's house, and he's like, let's play Herzog-Zwei. I'm like, or he said Ziwi, because we didn't know how to pronounce these back then. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And he's like, you never heard of Herzog-Zwei? I'm like, no, nobody's heard of this game. And honestly, even as an adult, I find a lot of people don't know about this game. I mean, I think you guys have heard of it before. Yeah. But Herzog-Zwei, for the Sega Genesis, is pretty much I mean, you could argue it's the first RTS game. It's certainly the first RTS game on a console back in the Genesis, but there's definitely a good case for it being the first RTS period. Before this episode, Sinistar and I were looking at this up, and apparently it's cited as an inspiration for some elements of Warcraft, StarCraft, for example. It's definitely a precursor to Dune 2 or Dune, which we spoke about in the Hidden Gems episode recently. I used to like Dune because it was, the collection of spice as a resource and the building of units and all that, and it was kind of a precursor to the RTS genre. This is even before that. So for those who have not played this game, it basically have a map. The game is very bare bones. There's no story. Oh, well, there's a story, but there's like no story missions. There's no missions per se. It's basically you select one of, I think it's 8 maps, and you pick a difficulty or play multiplayer. And each map has 9 bases on it, and that are unclaimed, 7 of which are unclaimed. And you basically start your base, and you're a flying jet that can turn into a walking mech. It's the most Japanese thing you can think of. When you think Japanese anime, you think Macross and the Vertifighters. Same idea. But you fly around and you can shoot enemies, or when you land, you can also shoot as a robot form on the ground. But you can build units or order units at your base, and then you pick them up and you deliver them to where you want them to go. And it's really, it's like Death Stranding delivery, but fun, if that's a thing. But there's, I think it's like 8 units in the game that you can build, from infantry to tanks to motorcycles, missile batteries, anti-air missile batteries. And when you're building them, you pick one of, I think, don't hold me to this, it's like between 4 to 6 attack patterns. Do you want to like circle around? Do you want to patrol? Do you want to try and capture bases? That kind of thing. So you program the unit while you're holding it, and then you go deliver it and you drop it, and then it does its thing. And it's definitely the RTS in that element. The way you claim bases on the map, you basically build your infantry, and you deliver them to the empty base. You drop them out front of it with the command to take over a supply base. And they enter the base. Like, they literally walk into it. And if there's enemy soldiers in it as well, they all line up and shoot at each other, and then you slowly take it over. But that's how you capture bases. But that's the game, right? You're capturing bases. The more bases you have, the more money, faster the money generates, the more credits you get, and then you basically create more units, reprogram as you need to do different things, and you're trying to defeat the other enemy. They're also a jet plane that flies around, and if you feel like it, my buddy and I used to do this against each other all the time, you fly over to their territory, and you gun the shit out of them and explode them. They respawn. They can respawn as much as they need to, but you take them out of the action for a few precious moments as you go back to your base, build more units, or reposition to take over territory.
Right.
It's a very fast-paced, very quick RTS game. Like, it's not slow, methodical. You're not building defenses. You're just building units to attack, and I love it for that. Have you guys played this one?
I have.
Go ahead. I just remember seeing reviews and advertisements for this game out the wazoo back in the magazines.
Now, I played this. Sorry, Wolf.
No. I was just going to say, I'm surprised I haven't played this. I'm also very surprised to learn that this is regarded as the first real-time strategy game. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
I do want to throw in a contender, because I was thinking about this as you were describing the game. Because I have played this, but I played this, I don't know, I played this on a ROM, on an emulator, years after it came out. So, I mean, I did not play it in 89 for sure. I probably played it in the late 90s, early 2000s. And honestly, for me, it was more about this, like, what's this Herzog-Zwei game? Like, this name is weird. I'm going to check it out. But on the Apple II, there is a side-scrolling real-time strategy called Rescue Raiders. And you are a helicopter, and you basically fly back and forth, and the enemy is a helicopter as well, but you have bases, and you can order essentially like tanks or infantry or these things to basically pop out of your base, and then they just slowly move across the map, and both sides are doing this. It's a side scroller.
Yeah.
And so your job as the helicopter is to try to clear the path on the way over.
Right.
And so it's basically, it feels a lot like a side-scrolling version of Herzog-Zwei. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
What year did that come out? That would
Rescue
84.
Raiders? 84. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Because I mean, one of the interesting things about this is I didn't realize it makes sense in hindsight, but Zwei, I think, is German for two or something along those lines. Yeah, this is a sequel actually. So there is a Herzog game. It came out on the MSX2, which is a Japanese computer console. So it never came out over here, and it's rough. And it kind of reminds me when you describe Rescue Rangers or Rescue Riders.
Raiders.
Rescue Raiders. It reminds me of it's similar in that. In that game, it's still top down, but there's like one street. It's like one lane, and you're building your units, and then you're still a robot that can fly, although you're not a plane. You're just a robot flying, and then you still attack the other person's units and the character. But it's like the idea of the concept of you're building units, and they go straight toward the other enemy and attack. And like I think we said before the episode, this is probably the influence of MOBAs, right? The idea of lane-based defense. And
Absolutely.
I love that how we went from like games like this to Warcraft 3, and Warcraft 3 going back to games like this where they want the lane-based fighting, which is really cool. Yeah.
And then we talked about before the episode that there is a modern, I think if we said 2018 game that is essentially like, it was basically almost a direct inspiration of Herzog-Zwei called Air Mech. Where you are essentially a flying mech, but you order units, you fly them around, you take over bases, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's basically a modern take on this game.
Yeah, I think we looked it up, and I think it even says in the description was inspired by Herzog-Zwei. So it's definitely, this game had an impact that maybe people don't recognize. I mean, it's very unique. There's very few games like it. I mean, Air Mech is the only one I can think of, except for the other example you mentioned, the Apple II. And it's an RTS game on Genesis, which if I were to look back as a kid, liking RTS games between SNES and Genesis has them. SNES doesn't really. It's it's kind of a weird genre to have. Sports games and RTS games. And it's a legit game, and it's fun multiplayer too. It's split screen, which that's hard to do in a game like this, but because of the way the map designs are and the bases, they look the same. When you're playing against an opponent, even if you look at their screen, because it's right there, you still have no idea necessarily where they are, really, unless you pull up a map. But it's legit. So this is also, we said before, Sega Ages, Wolf. This was, I think, one of the last Sega Ages games that got released, and they didn't change a whole lot. The only thing they really did add was they added the stats of, because you have various stats. You have base health, your energy for your gun, your ship health. All of the resources are now on the side of the screen instead of on top of it. And they added some icons and better display of the UI, I guess. And then I think they added a tutorial mode to walk you through all the units and what they do. Because this game, if you go in blind and you don't know what all the units do, it's a rough time. Like even when I played this, I was playing it last night, I didn't remember what anything did. So I had to go look up game FAQs to make sure I knew what I was doing. But as soon as I figured out, okay, this is the soldier that captures units. Here's a motorcycle. He's good against this. Here's the anti-air against, flying things. It clicks. And it's very basic. There's only 8 units, but I just love how you program them separately to do a certain thing. It's just got a vibe to it that's really great. And just, no fluff. Just a great, fun game, whether you're playing by yourself against the AI or you're playing against a buddy, like couch co-op. This is definitely a great one.
I had a great time when I played it. As I said, I played it on a ROM. I don't know. I expect late 90s, early 2000s. I probably, I played this on a ROM and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the Sega Ages version of this just sort of made it to where UI elements that you had to pause to see are more available during gameplay.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a widescreen game. This is retro, right? So when you have extra screen real estate, I mean, sure, you could add an extra row of pixels, I guess, to see the map, but I'd rather have the UI there. I like what they did with it. I kind of want to check the Sega Ages out now. I didn't realize they did stuff like that.
Apparently, it's also on the Switch. The Sega Ages release of it.
Oh, neat.
Oh, okay.
So
very cool.
I can't believe this is a game I have never played. I've never actually seen it in action. I just, for whatever reason, the title was never like, look at me. So I remember the name because it's such a unique title for the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what the game played like. I think I always just kind of saw the screenshots and thought it was kind of like
Tiger Heli.
what? Desert Strike?
Yeah, could have.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I likened it to that, and I wasn't a big fan of the Strike games as a kid. So
Like for the Genesis, when I hear Herzog-Zwei, I think like, oh, it's just another shmup, right? Like
Mhm.
Radius or something,
Right.
Because there are a lot of those on 16-bit systems, and a lot of them I kind of just my eyes glaze over them. It's definitely not a title I would have known about except I went to a buddy's place and he's like, "No, this game is great. We got to play it." Like we
yeah,
played
I
this
think had I
along with Realms of
actually
Bomberman.
played it as a kid, I would have
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Now I'm gonna have to play this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to try it out.
Yeah, give it a shot. It's well worth playing. So awesome. Any other comments?
I got nothing.
All right. My game of 1989, I bet everybody has heard of this game. So, I mean, I don't know that we're going to have to go into a bunch. And it came out for us in 89. There's a movie describing what happened before it came to the United States, though. So, which is well worth watching. Go watch this movie. But my game of the year for 1989 is Tetris. Now, in particular, I am naming the Game Boy version of Tetris simply for the fact that there probably were, I mean, there was like chess by mail, right? That people did, but this is like, if both of you had Game Boys and you had the link cable, you could play against each other and you could mess with each other, which was also huge. And so, yeah, I mean, what needs to be said about Tetris? Real quick description. It's a puzzle game. You drop tetraminos in a pattern. Once you create a line, that line disappears, and you can create up to lines of 4. I mean, it's simple. If you haven't heard of it, why are you listening to our podcast? But also, welcome.
Yeah. If you like Tetris, listen to our other 200 episodes about other games you'll probably dig too.
We've never talked about Tetris before, ever. Like 72 times.
We might have an inside joke about Tetris being the euphemism for
about
masturbation.
playing Tetris.
Yeah.
So like,
no, but this is really, now when I looked it up, it's arguable if it came in 88 or 89. We forgot to say the rules at the beginning. We go by the date listed on Moby Games. And so we don't want to mess around with trying to figure out if there was this, if it was December of 80s, 88 or, whatever. So Moby Games says it came to North America in 89. So we're claiming it for 89. But yeah, I mean, memorable music,
huge,
memorable gameplay. I still play Tetris to this day. Tetris Connect, whatever it's called, the new one, Tetris Effect Connected. It's great. But multiplayer, like battery chewing multiplayer, was epic in 89. So
yeah, I went through dozens of batteries for this game. This was the game to play on the Game Boy. I mean, I think it is a pack-in for most Game Boys, actually. But I mean, even when I had games like Mario Land, even, I mean, as much as I like Mario Land, this was the game I played most often. I played the hell out of
Metroid.
Tetris.
Yeah, I mean, there were bangers on the Game Boy. The Game Boy was no slouch, but Tetris, I think Tetris drove sales. So,
yeah, this is one of the games that not just drove sales, but it also got people who weren't necessarily gamers to buy it, right? To buy into this. This is a game your parents would play as well, and could get the rules instantly and have a blast with it. And like, there's a Nintendo one, there's a couple of Nintendo ones. They don't feel the same to me at all. This feels just better. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there's something about the Game Boy version of Tetris that just feels timeless, and like the mechanics were just really tight and well thought out, and it didn't need any fluff. You got 2 tracks, and then you can choose to have no music if you want.
Right.
And then you got like varying difficulty levels based on like how fast the blocks move and how many blocks you got underneath you before you start. And that was kind of it.
Yep.
And it did such a good job. I don't think I've fallen in love with another Tetris game as much as I fell in love with the Game Boy version.
I agree. And I love the Tetris on Nintendo 64. I adore it. We've talked about it. It was the first one that had the save piece ability. But I mean, still, Tetris on the Game Boy. That was the Tetris for me.
The closest I got to liking another Tetris more is maybe Tetris 99 on the Switch because of the interesting, 100-player multiplayer aspect. But
right,
I will still spin this up. I mean, when I got the Analog Pocket, which is a handheld device, the first game I bought was Tetris off eBay. That's the one cartridge I wanted. Forget everything else. I just want Tetris in it at all times, and I love it.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. I had no idea. Sorry.
I used my GBA for years as just a Tetris machine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tetris was just always sticking like out of my GBA SP.
Yeah.
Just ready to go if I needed it. The only other Tetris I ever liked almost as much was Tetris Plus for the PlayStation. And that one like really spun the mechanics on its head because you had to like keep this little dude alive. He would climb on the blocks and work his way up to the spikes. So it was not so much filling up your blocks to the ceiling, but keeping him from climbing them high enough to die.
Yeah.
You reminded me, there was a PC Tetris called Atomic Tetris that was fantastic. And the multiplayer aspect on that had things like, instead of just adding lines to other people, when you would break, certain blocks would change into like activators. And when you would break those, it would do that to either you or your friend. And the one that we all reference is the idiot, where it literally called it the idiot. And so we say whenever somebody has their controls reversed, you've got the idiot. Like that has stuck in our vocabulary from Atomic Tetris. So that, I guess I have to give a shout out for Atomic Tetris.
There is, I do want to mention, there is this weird version of Tetris I played once in high school. Because it was in the Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail PC game. It was called Drop Dead. So it's literally what they're doing with the, the bring out your dead, bring out your dead. I'm not dead. I feel fine. I feel happy.
Tetramino
They're
bodies.
going to a pit and throwing all these Tetramino shaped bodies into the pit.
That's morbid. I love it.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, we've all said games today, I think, that are like legacy, right? Where the impact of it started a franchise and they started right here. But I think this is the one where, even though it's a start of a franchise, I still like it more than most of the franchise that came after it. I still love the original.
Yeah.
Like, this was almost a Sisyphean game for me this year, actually. It was this or Street Fighter, believe it or not, because there's retro achievements, which I'm not huge into Chivos, but I almost have the badge for this one on Game Boy specifically. I'm only missing one Chivo. I just need to get 100,000 points in Mode A, which is the infinite mode. I've already gotten all the Chivos for beating Mode B, which is the one where you have trash blocks at the bottom of the screen you have to clear.
Mm-hmm.
And that was brutal. The last one at the full speed was brutal, and I did it. I have one left, and I have not been able to do it. But it's something I know I could do, but I haven't been able to pull it off, and it's been driving me nuts. It's that earworm. It just won't go away. But I would love to finish that Chivo set off for this game. This is the one I go back to all the damn time.
Nice.
Also, you're right.
Yeah.
Everybody should go watch that movie. That movie was fucking rad. Like,
it really was.
wild.
That was a great movie.
And obviously there were some liberties taken.
Sure.
Yeah, they definitely Hollywooded it up, but
but Tetris movie is a banger.
It apparently is still mostly accurate aside from that chase. So, but I mean, for the guys, like for the people in the movie, like the people that it actually happened to, it felt like that for them.
Right.
So
Right.
while it may not be accurate factually, emotionally, 100% accurate. So
For sure. No, Tetris movie is, if you haven't watched it, please go watch Tetris movie.
Yeah. Like, if you're thinking, why the hell would I watch a Tetris movie? Just know that it's a Cold War era thriller about the guy who has the idea of Tetris and trying to get the rights to it to sell in America. It's wildly good, and it's
Yeah,
about
it's
it's
about
about Game Boy Tetris.
yeah, Cold War era thriller about trying to acquire the rights for Tetris outside of the USSR.
Yeah. And
Pretty
all
good.
of the espionage and KGB and like everything that you
Mhm.
would expect is in it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
It's way better than it has any right to be.
Uh-huh.
And oh man, that was such a good one.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack is also rad.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah.
All right. I mean, so that's Tetris. I mean,
Yeah.
oh, really quick, we were talking about, which Tetris do you go to? When I first built my Mr. FPGA and I spun up the Game Boy core, right off the bat, it was Tetris. Like I went to Tetris.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's Tetris Gaiden for the SNES is one that people should play as well. It's only released in Japan, but it's all in English. You can play it now. That's another multiplayer gem if you have friends over, is because it has those powers that affect the other players, the reverse controls and all that kind of stuff. And it's got some cute cartoon characters to go with it. But Tetris Gaiden is another favorite.
the SNES Tetris Dr. Mario combo
That's
is
pretty good
essentially
too.
just a port of the NES versions, but I think it has multiplayer as well. I know it has multiplayer for Dr. Mario. I don't remember if it does for
Yeah. Oh,
Tetris.
it has verses, and you can actually swap back and
Switch.
forth. Like
That's-
you can choose what game you want per round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
so
was
it'll like tag who won this round, and then determine from there. I've got a friend who she and I have tried a few times, and she always just barely edges me out.
well, I was gonna say I think there might still be a clip on Twitch on Twitch of Sinstress wiping the walls with me in Tetris because she does. I love Tetris. She's better at it.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, there we go. I think we defined 89.
Yeah, and we are aware that there are other badass games that came out in '89. There's just 3 of us, and we each got to pick 2 games. So
Yeah.
like that's if you're upset that we didn't talk about Castlevania 3 or DuckTales or some other game,
Space Quest 3.
it's because there's just 3 of us.
Yeah.
It's hard to narrow it down, and like I think the games we picked, I think all had a lasting legacy or impact on other games, and that to me is the
Yeah.
spirit of this, where it's game of the year because of what they did to later on, right? Like it's such an impact.
And I mean, there are a number of games that came out in '89 that do that same thing. I mean,
Sure.
it's a little bit. It feels a little. Oh my goodness, I can't think of the word. Just incorrect that we didn't even mention River City Ransom, given that was kind of the birth of the podcast.
Sure.
But I mean, it is what it
Yeah.
is. Oh
Yeah.
Come to our Discord. Go to pressbtocancel.com. Yeah, go to that one and find the links for our Discord or comment here or whatever. And while you're at it, please subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down.
apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that if you say smash that like button, the little like button jiggles on PC.
Oh,
Yeah, they've been doing some weird stuff lately. You're going to see some weird thumbnails. I'm going to apologize in advance, but I'm testing things because I want to see what works, gets the clicks on YouTube thumbnails. So if you see a pair of boobs or an old man, I'm just testing. That's just, it's not my fault. You click more on certain things. Don't blame me. It's your fault for clicking on certain thumbnails. That's what I'm going to say
that's
there.
right.
Yeah, YouTube things. But yeah,
Awesome.
don't dislike, just like. Leave a comment. The engagement is good.
Yeah.
Or if you're listening on a podcast app, first off, let me know which one, because Google Podcasts is going away in like 2 days, and I have to find an alternative to use myself. So let me know what you're using.
I haven't replaced mine yet either.
Yeah, but also if you have a chance, leave a review. That definitely helps. Whether you're listening on Apple or anywhere else, that's appreciated. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen. Well, I'm gonna expose a little bit of the making the sausage. This is a pre-recorded episode, so I'm probably not gonna skip over our "What are you doing?" because we don't know when this is gonna come out. So,
Yep.
That said, we appreciate everybody. We appreciate you being here. We hope it's been entertaining while you've been doing the dishes or laundry, whichever one I said at the beginning.
Taking that
Breaking
trash
down
at the trash
cardboard.
town. That's
right.
what we're doing.
Trash Town, Trash Valley. Yeah, exactly.
Trash Valley, Trash Island.
Anyway, thanks everybody. This has been another Press B to Cancel.